could say about the great resignation, in the wake of coronavirus, people, seeking meaning outside of their jobs and more fulfillment inside their jobs as well. What can you comment about that from your perspective and coming from the Middle East region?
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Nabila. Yeah, there's no doubt that the Great Resignation exists. I think it exists more in other parts of the world than it does in this part of the world. I think so far in the UAE specifically, we've been quite lucky. Certainly in the businesses that I'm involved in, we haven't seen the Great Resignation. Perhaps what we have seen instead is the Great Realization or the Great Reset in terms of a rethinking about the future of work and as employers, what we need to do to retain and develop our staff, and as employees, what we can expect from our employers. I don't think that we've seen a rush to resign and consider a completely new lifestyle or move country, or, I mean, yes, of course, there's been some of that, but not to the extent that, for example, the US has seen.
That's an interesting point. Can you elaborate more what employees are looking for now that we're no longer forced to be in lockdown and we're no longer following coronavirus restrictions? What employees are looking for from their employers?
Yeah, I think what the lockdowns and what the pandemic has done is shine a spotlight on physical ways of working, obviously, because we were all forced to work from home for a while. Now we can, if we wish, to be back in the office. And I think that's the key thing, wish to be back in the office. I think many businesses are now offering the flexibility, they're offering the choice to their employees, because there are undoubtedly benefits to both. Benefits from working from home on some occasions, benefits to being in the office on other occasions. And so I think it's that flexibility that is now important to employees. I think that it's also focused employees' minds a little bit on their longer term development. So one of the things that came up in the pandemic when we were all forced to work from home is our ability to adapt to the technologies. So, we went from people who were very, very comfortable with all the technologies, all the softwares, could Zoom, could webcast, could Google interchangeably, and those that actually struggled to log on to a laptop. So I think it's shone a light on the importance of technological skills, but also the importance of human skills, because connecting with people can be harder through this medium online. So I think employees are now considering more in terms of their long-term development. So I think as employers, this is a great opportunity to really upskill our teams, help them with digitization, help them with those human soft skills.
What are some of the human soft skills that you think will be needed going forward?
I don't think they're changing. The human skills are the human skills. Communication, being able to connect with people, build relationships, use collaboration to be creative, to be innovative, work with teams, lead groups. These have been the important skills for many, 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 many years, decades, hundreds of years potentially, and I think will be for hundreds of years to come. But I think they've been highlighted even more so as we move towards a technology-based, in many businesses, a technology-based way of working. These human skills are even more important because it's not necessarily so obvious how you develop those skills if you're stuck behind a laptop. I mean, take a new graduate. My son, for example, just entered the world of work, and he spent his first 3 weeks sitting on his laptop in his bedroom. It is so difficult in those circumstances to develop those human skills of working with others, but we are always going to have to work together. Well, Nabila, you know what? I hope we're always going to have to work together. I hope that when we all work in the metaverse, we're not working into, but for the foreseeable future, we need to be able to work together. And I don't want to go on for too long, but look at what is happening in the world at the moment with the crisis in Europe, you know, and we are now relying on our governments and our leaders and our politicians to work together, to collaborate, to be innovative, to be able to influence, to be able to negotiate. You know, yes, technology is a tool, but it's not the end game.
Going forward, you see like it's gonna be a hybrid work model, or we're gonna go back to the office full time? Like, how do you see the future of work evolving, given that tech is such prevalent now? And
yeah, okay, so let's talk about the UAE, because it does vary from country to country. One of the things that we're really lucky here is many of us don't have a horrible journey to work, a very long commute. Many of us can leave the office, get to the school gate, get to a sporting commitment, get to the gym in a relatively short period of time. So we have, I think, the ability to work from home and to work from the office without those sort of physical barriers. Therefore, I think in the UAE, we will see very much a hybrid. I think it will be unusual to be working totally from home if you have an office in the UAE. Of course, you may be working for a business, this is an interesting model, isn't it, that has an office in the UK or in the US or in Jordan, but doesn't have an office in the UAE. So of course you'll be working from home. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. But if you are working for a UAE-based company, I think it will be a hybrid model. And that has its challenges.
Such as?
I think the accountability, I think for teams to know when people are going to be present, when they're going to be online. I think if you are, because of maybe your family circumstances, because maybe you're the main child carer and you're at home more and in the office less, there's potential to lose out. If everybody is working from home, everybody is on the same playing field. If everybody is working in the office, everybody is equally visible, equally present, equally able to collaborate. I think once you go hybrid and you have some people working at home and some people working from the office, there is potential for it not to be so equal. Okay,
I get it. And
I worry about that, Nabila. I worry about that. I have in the past worried about the young mums who work for me, and obviously I completely understand, being a mum myself, that the childcare is needing to be at home, but then there's this pull where maybe you feel you should be in the office, and if you're not in the office, are you missing out on opportunities? And I think that's quite stressful. Yeah. Although again, I come back to the fact that in the UAE we were so lucky, because I believe you can do both, because school gates are not that far away, and we do have great child support, etc., etc.
Yeah, I hear it's not easy. You had brought up one point about working for companies abroad from the UAE, and you said you're going to see more of that. What do you think in the UAE is it that allows such a setup, or is it more like it's going to be happening globally, that people are going to be digital nomads, I think is the term being used?
I think it will happen globally, but I think we'll see more of it in the UAE. One, the UAE is a great place to live. So if you're going to live remotely, why not come and live in a wonderful country and the wonderful cities that we have here? That's number one. Number two, the logistics of flying around the rest of the world, back to your home country or back to other countries. Perhaps you have a Middle East role, so flying to other countries in the Middle East is so easy from Dubai. Number three, the technology here, the bandwidth, the access to technological support is fantastic. It's an incredibly easy place to live, very frictionless. I think you can move to the UAE and very quickly set yourself up in business and in life. And of course, we have visas now that make it very easy to work in this country, but be employed by a company in another country. So I think there are many reasons, but they're all good.
Exciting times.
Definitely.
Okay, I don't have any more questions. If there's anything you'd like to add around this very interesting topic.
No, I think one of the things that I've noticed is that, and actually there's a report in the Arabian Business today that says there's this big gap between the salary increases that employees are expecting this year versus the salary increases that employers are expecting to give. And I think there are a couple of points there. Yes, the GDP of the UAE is going to be, I think the forecast is 4.2%. But we have to remember that a lot of the GDP growth in the UAE is based on oil. And as we know at the moment, the oil price is very high. There are many industries and sectors in the UAE that are still trying to get their way out of the pandemic. So there are many, if you talk about hospitality, to a certain extent, retail, the airlines are still getting back on their feet. There are lots of past losses that need to be recuperated. And so I think, yes, let's not forget, employees should not forget that they have been supported by their employers through the tough times, but things don't change overnight. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, I would encourage employees and employers to take a long-term view of the employee relationship. In other words, staff shouldn't change jobs for 100 dirhams here, 100 dirhams there. They should look rather at what their employer is doing to help them develop the skills in the longer term that increase their employability. So what is your employer doing to help you acquire those digital skills? What is your employer doing to help you acquire those human skills? And what is your employer doing to help you manage your work-life balance and your general well-being? Because those are the long-term things that are going to help your career in the future. A salary is a short-term fix, but your own development, your own learning, your own well-being, those are long-term. And so therefore, from the employer's point of view, they should also focus on those things. It's not just thinking that a 5% pay increase is going to fix everything. It's not. We have to invest as employers in the long-term development of our, and Nabila, I almost said children there, because I actually think of my team as my children. But if they were my children, of course, we would be investing. What do we spend most money on as parents? Education.
Yes.
And actually, young people, when they come into the workplace, they still need educating. And that's where we should be focusing our resources and our time and effort, helping them learn and develop to acquire the skills that they need in the next 5 years, the next 10 years, the next 15 years. And at the same time, making sure that we are supporting them and educating them about their own well-being.
Makes sense. Yeah. Interesting perspective to that issue. Thank you so much, Amanda. And I hope you have a nice day.
You're very welcome. Thank you, Nabila. Great to talk to you. Thanks a lot.